All right, guys. I should be live and ready to go here. I'm about a minute early, so I'll give it a minute here. Wait for some people to hop on. If you're already on, if you want to shout out in the chat, that'd be great. Otherwise, we'll get started here momentarily. Hopefully, audio and everything should be in sync. I've got my new camera, my Sony ZV-10 Mark II, actually, for this live stream, because I moved on from the Mark I. So this is my first time using it, but I think everything's okay. And audio levels on my side anyway look fine. So you guys can tell me if any of that's off or not. And, you know, somebody throws something in the chat here in a minute. That would be great, just so I can see if all is good. Cheeky Fest, hello. Thanks for joining, man. Audio level is good, I'm assuming, and everything, so wait for you guys to tell me there. I'm doing a little bit of a different setup today, too. I normally have, like, the whole desk like you see in my videos, but, yeah, I decided to use the wide-angle lens this time around, so looks okay. Thank you, Invictus. Thanks for joining. Josh D, how's it going, man? Thanks for joining as well. Kevin, hello. All right, guys, well, as you may have remembered, if you guys were around for my New York CanJam experience, I decided to do a live stream recap for that one. And I kind of thought, I enjoyed it. It was nice for me. I didn't have to mess with editing all my photos and videos. I could just kind of pop them up on the screen. So, hey, Tom, David, and Bree joined in. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. So, yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that live stream. Of course, that was with Bree. Because she got to go to New York with me, so we both got to kind of talk about things. But I've got pictures and a couple of videos and things thrown up on here that I'll be able to share throughout this stream. Now, none of this is edited, so quality police, you know, please don't hit me on that, because it's, I mean, I think the footage is fine, but just something for you guys to look at so you don't stare at me the whole time as I'm talking about this stuff. Also, I'm really going to go through kind of my progression of CanJam from day 1 to day 2, because that's easiest for me for how I wrote my notes down. I wanted to break this down into a like category, but I was like, forget it. I'll just talk to you guys about my experience from, you know, day 1 to day 2. And thank you so much, guys, for joining. This is awesome. Pud, if you guys, I think that's, oh yeah, Pud makes headphones. Yeah, I am so bummed that I didn't just walk right up to you at CanJam and meet you. He's a guy that makes all the really cool headphones, guys, like the crazy ones, the French fries, and you'll see some pictures. I got it on this stream as an experience, and they have sound, and some of them sound sadly better than some of the actual headphones I listen to there. So, man, he does an awesome job with those, and they're a lot of fun. My daughter loved the French fry headphones, so I'm getting ahead of myself, but yeah, very cool that you joined the stream here. Nice, Josh, going to New York City. You're gonna like it. Between SoCal and New York, at least in the U.S., I mean, that's gonna be the busiest CanJams that you guys will see. So, and lots of cool gear to check out. And yeah, that's kind of how I want to start this and tell you that this time around, I did actually focus on gear. So, on my flight in, I actually watched the 3.5-hour Head 5 video from Jude and Brian. They did a great job in that, by the way, and I told them that, you know, in person too. I'm sure, I can't even imagine, you know, doing 3.5-hour video, how long that took them to edit it and everything, but they did a great job with it. But it was good for me because I honestly didn't go into the SoCal with a list of gear or anything. I was just like, well, there's a few things I want to check out for sure, but I decided by watching that video, I created myself a very long list. And you guys can see this, you know, I check marked things as I went through CanJam. I did not make it through the list. And that was 2 days, and that was the most listening I've ever done. So that should tell you right there that when you go to CanJams, it's going to be really hard to hear everything unless you just completely ignore friends, whoever you go with. If you don't eat, maybe just pack some Cheetos in a bag or something along the way. they probably don't want you having cheesy fingers handling headphones. But you know what I'm saying? Just like handling some snacks or something so you don't take any breaks. I suppose that's one way to do it, but then you're going to get fatigued because even for the stuff I listened to, I got fatigued about halfway through the first day. And then on the second day as well. Didn't catch any seminars, so if you guys want to know about that, I'm sorry. Again, this was just really focused on impressions of stuff. So with that, I think I will go ahead and jump right in and just talk about, you know, when I first entered CanJam, you know, the very first thing I saw when I went through the double doors, which if you guys have gone to any of these, typically you're going to see headphones.com kind of center stage, if you will. And a lot of times Audeze is right up there with them. Well, this time around, that was the same. As soon as you walk in, you see the headphones.com guys there. Audeze is to the left. And then to the right was Focal. And Focal had a pretty interesting setup. And let me see if I can get this video to play. I'll show you guys on here. Let me enable this. Okay, so anyway, that's one of the headphones I checked out, but here's just a short clip of kind of their display that Focal had, and it's not the best. This is all on my phone, by the way. But they had these neat little poles with the headphones hanging there. You know, the headphones, the brands above, or not the brands, but the models above of what they were. And they used the NAIM, N-A-I-M, amps. If I'm saying that correctly, that is what Focal typically likes to use with their stuff, so that's what I listened on. And I wanted to check out the two new ones that they recently had because I'm more of a mid-fi guy, and not that I want to be a mid-fi guy, but my budget says I need to be a mid-fi guy. So, and sadly enough, mid-fi is now in like the $1,000 range, which when I first got in the hobby, it was like $500 or less. And it's just crazy. But the new headphones, and I'm going to butcher naming if you guys watch any of my name. Okay, well, that's easy enough. Thanks, Cheeky. If you guys know anything about my videos, I butcher names of everything. So, and it's not deliberate. So the Azurys, I think I did get that one right. I checked that one out, and the Hadenys, yeah, that's terrible. But anyways, I started with the HADENYS headphone, and I was instantly impressed with both of those. That was the first thing I listened to, and I decided this time around I was going to do some type of a star system just for my own use of like 1 to 3 star rating, so I could kind of tell myself, and I based that off of everything, not just how it sounded, but what was the price of it, how was the build, all that stuff is kind of how I just mentally did that. And yeah, so for the Hadenys, I'll just keep saying it wrong. It had good thump, good mids. It was smooth. It was not sibilant, and the resolution was pretty good, I gotta say, for the price it's coming in at, which, if I'm correct, is around that 500-ish range for those headphones. And I know they're kind of based off of a wired version of the Batiste, because you got the open back and you got the closed back version. And I really wanted to check them out because, to me, like, I think that's kind of what I want to let Bree listen to when she gets a chance to listen to some more headphones, because she liked the Batiste so much, and Focal to me fits smaller head, smaller ears a little bit better than maybe some people do. But I've always liked Focal headphones anyway. Now, on the Azurys, it definitely had a little bit more bass, and I wrote down possibly more vocals is what I was getting out of it. Attack on Focals is always excellent for any Focal I've heard, and this was no different for those two. And then the last thing I put down there is that they were more of an intimate stage, which I think any Focal I've heard so far has not been really known for big staging, which is fine. I mean, that's kind of what you get into when you get into Focal headphones. But both of those guys, I got to tell you, I was very impressed with, and probably was not the best start, because then that kind of set the bar for anything I heard in that price range on down to decide if it matched up to, you know, my preference, or if it, you know, if it was in that range, let's just say it that way. So, and you'll kind of see that as I go on. From there, and yeah, I guess I can show you guys just a couple of quick pictures of those Focals, because they are Focal is another company that they just make some beautiful headphones, in my opinion. Their build is excellent. The the grills on there that you can see, I like the new designing they went with when they went with the MG style, and just beautiful headphones. And yeah, that's the amp I was talking about there, and that's me wearing it in case you guys want to see that. So yeah, so then next after that, good picture to start with, I went to the Hifiman booth, and I definitely had seen ahead of time that they were going to have the HE1000 Unveiled. So I kind of thought, well, I definitely got to check that out since I got a chance to, listen and do a video on the Susvara Unveiled. But that's not actually what I checked out first. Somebody was listening to that one, and I don't have pictures of this one, so I apologize. But I listened to the Ananda Bluetooth. I was really intrigued when I was watching the Head5 video on the Bluetooth Ananda, because they use an R2R DAC on this one, and the Ananda Nano was actually a headphone I was pretty impressed with, again, for the price that it was coming in at and for the sound of everything. And so the Ananda Bluetooth, I gotta say, all right, I wrote down resolution was decent. It was a bit mid-forward for my taste of what I was listening to. It had a nice deep and low textured low end, but the fit sucked. All right, I'm just gonna say it like it is. It sucked. Like the headphone, where are they? All right, sorry. So purposely put some of the stuff around here to kind of give you an example. So Hifiman headphones, guys, they're the egg shape, whatever you want to call them. And the Ananda Nano's just like this, or the Ananda Bluetooth is just like this. And when they go in your head, some of the complaints is that the bottom here will kind of hit the bottom of your jaw, and some people have discomfort there because if it's too clampy over time, that could cause some issues. So with the Bluetooth, it actually was sitting, like, I kid you not, probably a ½ inch to an inch away from my ear at the bottom. So no seal. And I instantly asked the guy there at Hifiman, I said, is this intentional, or is this just because they're brand new? Because they felt really stiff too, like they just opened them out of a box. Because even the adjustment mechanism on the top was really, really hard to click up and down. And the guy there told me, he's like, no, actually, we've been getting a lot of feedback that people did not like the clamp force of our Ananda headphones in the past, and so we made this one on purpose to be more of a loose fit. And then he showed me on the top, he's like, if you own one of these, this is metal on the band, you can bend it. Okay, you can bend ZMF, and there's a video for Zach, he shows you how you can bend ZMF headphones. Here's my thing with that, though. I don't know if I 100% believe that it was as intentional as the fit was, because it literally like flared out at the bottom of my head. And I thought that was really strange. So I actually was listening to them like this. I was closing them in just so I could try to get a seal and see what that sounded like. But as soon as I let go, they would boop, just go right back out. And it was not just me. I asked other people from the show if they had checked them out, and that was the biggest complaint I was seeing about the Ananda Bluetooth, was that the fit is just weird. And maybe it is they were just extremely stiff. If that's going to be the end product, I guarantee that's going to be a complaint that you're going to see from many on there. And it does fit some head shapes. I was talking to a buddy of mine that he said, he tried it out on day 2 and said they fit him fine. Now his head shape's different than mine, but my other thought there was, okay, that was day 2. I checked it out in day 1. I don't know, maybe somebody bent them between the 2 days, or maybe Hifiman did after so many people were like, what the heck's going on here? So if they did and it fit better, so be it. But that was definitely not a fun experience for what I was hoping for to be a really good headphone. And it might be still, just not my greatest impression of that one. So, my star rating I gave it was 2, simply because I did like the sound. Maybe that's 1.5. I think it's 1.5, but the fit. So, all right, so next was the HE1000 Unveiled. And let me pop back over to show you guys, in case anybody has not seen these. So one thing instantly I like and appreciate better about this headphone is there's more room. I think you guys can see my cursor. There's more room here to grab this headphone. I wish I had a picture of the Susvara Unveiled, because the driver on the Susvara Unveiled really went down much further and to the edge much closer, to where you had to almost grab it at the outsides of the headphone to put it on and off. And for this at least gives you some room for, you know, your fingers to grab something when you're wearing it. And it's hard to see by this picture, but there's a bit of an indentation here too. So think of like, what's a good example of, like, you know, a camera on a smartphone, you know, the lens kind of pops out. Well, this does the reverse thing. The driver's kind of popped in so that, you know, they're not sticking out by any means. And I like this design a little bit better for what they did. I still don't like the Unveiled thing. That's just me. I'm not a fan of that. I know that it does help the sound, so let me talk about that next. Sound impression that I got. Let me see what else I have. That was the amp that it was running on, by the way, so I did take a picture of that. And yeah, just a short video of the Hifiman booth. Nothing too special there. And I think that might be all I have. Yes. Okay. Sorry, let me switch this back so I can talk to you about the sound. So on the HE1000 Unveiled, I think a lot of people are going to like the sound of that headphone. I liked the sound of that headphone. It's sparkle, it was clear, had excellent resolution. It was a little warmer. It definitely didn't have those peaks of brightness that you can get from the HE1000 SE. But the low end, I would say, is probably not as prominent as the HE1000 SE, but this is just a quick show example, so please don't quote me on that one. And I say that because the same thing happened with the Susvara. The Susvara OG, for many, is still one that people would prefer because the sound signature that it has, yeah, it can be a little bit bright at times, but when you get it on the right amp, it can really be a beautiful sound. And with the Unveiled of Susvara, talking about, that one wasn't as amp picky. And I think the same thing's going to happen with the HE1000 SE, although, not the SE, the HE1000 Unveiled. Although the HE1000 SE, I didn't necessarily consider that to be extremely amp picky. I mean, it sounded good in a lot of the different things that I had, but I can imagine maybe this one will be a little easier to drive as well. And it's just a very big sound. Because it's unveiled, because it's open, you get more of that open sound. It just comes down to whether or not you're okay with a headphone like that that's just got drivers exposed. And I think it's going to be around $2,700. Let me check up on the chat here for a second. Kevin, listen to the Unveiled. They were not for me. This was the first time I heard any Hifiman headphones. They were too bright for me. Yeah, I mean, Hifiman is known to be a brighter headphone, regardless, depending on your tolerance of that. So yeah, I can definitely understand that. Tyler says it all the time. If you guys know Tyler from my streams and his channel, like he does not like Hifiman headphones. This is bias against him, but hey, he's honest about it. Pictus, I also do not like the Unveiled concept. I'm most certain I will break the thing. Yeah, that's the biggest thing that I'm concerned about too, is just the durability. I know the Unveiled, the Susvara Unveiled had a couple of damaged drivers. I think there's like a meme of a picture of like a bullet hole through the driver. I still wonder what the heck somebody did. But yeah, I mean, I do worry that we're going to have, if you get these more into the mainstream, which the HE1000 Unveiled's going to be a little bit more into the mainstream, coming in at $2,700, you're opening yourself up for more and more people to possibly damage them. And again, don't quote me on this, but I was kind of talking to some guys around Hifiman, and you know, it's possible they could even do this on the Aria, but then probably stop from there, because yeah, it doesn't make sense to me for them to do that to like a $300 headphone, like a Sendara. But the Aria, I could definitely see them doing that with. Hifiman's kind of got that trend when they did like the magnetic, the stealth. You know, they continue down their line, so I can see them doing that as well, especially if people give good feedback on how they sound. But yeah, I am really worried that if they continue that, you're going to have more and more damaged drivers. And honestly, I just kind of wish, the Unveiled concept's cool. It does make a very big sound, as big as in expansive, but I feel like they could have done it in a way to maybe make the grills themselves removable. I mean, that's the mod that, we all had heard about from the past, and I think that's kind of where some of this originated from. So I'm sure with their driver technology, they may have tried it and it just didn't sound right, I'm guessing, but it's a bummer because that could have given you a different sound, something with the grill on and then something with the grill off, and that way, depending on your comfort level. But yeah, so I don't know. Hopefully at some point I'll get an HE1000 Unveiled in to check out and do a video on, and I'll try to be a little nicer than what I was on the Susvara Unveiled. Although I love the sound of the Susvara Unveiled, no doubt. So, and it should be about the sound, but it has to be about the aesthetic and build at some point because we're all handling this stuff. So, and yes, I definitely agree with what you're saying there about the HE1000 SE, saying it's the most well-rounded pair in the 1000 lineup. That's your question. Yes, I think they are. I actually have thought about selling my organic to get the HE1000 SE. They still have peaks of brightness, the HE1000 SE does by far, but it's better in my opinion than even the organic. But it's such a good resolution, and for $1,600 that it's going for now, it is a fantastic price, in my opinion. And it may even go even lower now that they got the Unveiled. I don't know. Probably going to see them on the used markets too. But it is a great headphone still. And just like the Susvara OG is a great headphone. And with that one also probably dropping in price is almost a good time to pick those headphones up. Yeah. Tom said the same thing about, handling headphones a lot. Yeah, I mean, we do. Like, I guess, to me, like, the Unveiled concept is kind of like the Abyss 1266. It's a headphone that you sit on your head and you have to kind of do this when you're listening. I can't get engaged doing that. And I'm not trying to knock the 1266. I'm just saying that that's kind of the feeling I had when I had the Unveiled in-house here was, I like to get into my music and kind of bob along in things, and every now and then I'd be like, oh, I gotta be careful. Oh, I'm wearing my ring. I can't put that by. I mean, I shouldn't have to think about that kind of stuff just to listen to a headphone, but you do. So I could go on and on about this one, so I won't, and I'll move on. So speaking of which, I did move on from there to the Meze booth, and or is it Meze? I don't know. Meze or Meze. I say Meze. And not that day, but on the second day, I actually got to talk to Antonio Meze. Super incredibly nice guy, and kind of gave a little background on even like the 99 Classics, which was pretty cool to hear. But let me go ahead and share my screen again, and I will show you guys. That was just their banner of the Lyric 2, of course. But this is the new, get this right, the 105 from Meze. So you got the 109, the 105 is kind of the open version, in my opinion, of like a 99 Classics. I'm not saying it's tuned that way, but I'm saying that's what it reminds me of. It's in the same price range of the 99 Classics, and it has the same band system and everything too as the 99 Classics, but it's open. And as typical, I mean, beautiful headphone. Let me see if there we go. Yeah, I mean, this is just my camera phone, but that is a beautifully designed headphone. I think Meze and ZMF rank up as like number 1 and number 2 as far as just their build quality, and I don't know, I dig the aesthetics of them too, and was a very, very cool headphone. And it was on a Ferrum stack. So in case you're wondering about a sound impression, it was on a very good stack as far as the amps goes. So remember when I was talking about at the beginning that I started off my quest with my day with listening to the Focal headphones. I did not like the 105. It was very comfortable. I put melts on my head because it did. It was super comfortable. It just didn't hit quite as hard for me. It didn't have a lot of resolution for what I would hope for, even in that price range, and almost thought it might be a little too warm, and was a little bit too much of a step down from the 109 Pro, for my opinion. But again, show floor, busy crowd, lots of people waiting to hear headphones, so I never consider these impressions as my finite conclusion until I get something in to listen. And I do want to get this one in to listen to more because it's in a very good price range for a lot of people that are wanting to get into hi-fi headphones. And it's a beautiful headphone. And if you're wanting something that's an open back version and don't want to go the closed back of a 99 Classics, I think it makes a lot of sense. So I would like to get a lot more time with it. But yeah, my initial impression was not good. When I compared it to the Focal, I remember buddy Alex, him and I were hanging around there quite a bit. And we both actually agreed. Like, going from the Focal to that was a disappointment. So, but I'm hoping that, again, maybe my impressions will change once I'm able to get more time with it. Who knows? Even though I said Ferrum Stack was very good, it's possible that, you know, maybe a different synergy will be better, but, you know, I doubt it's going to change it that much, especially a headphone in that price range. So still, it'd be something I want to check out a little more. But I'm going to move on from that because that's the only thing I checked out at the Meze booth. I've listened to all the other Meze headphones, so I didn't really need to spend any time with any of the other ones there so I could get on to other things. I will tell you that, to kind of hop around for a second, on day 2, I listened to a Meze Elite on the Teak, T-E-A-K amp, if I'm saying that right or wrong. Wow. I had never heard that headphone sound like that, as in dynamic, punchy. You know, the Elite to me has always been a very excellent resolution, clean sounding headphone, and this gave it a little bit more of a musical nature. It was incredible. If I get to that part, I think I might even have a picture of that. I will pop it up. But for now, I'll move on to where I headed next. And that was a recommendation from my friends from the Bay. They told me I had to check out the Hi-Fi for All booth that they had. And TAC, I think. Okay, thanks, Tom. I got it close. But I headed over to the Hi-Fi for All booth, and they had their Dhalia headphone, the DHALIA headphone. And as I'm talking, I can try to find the photo of it here. Now, the amp that they had it on, I will apologize, guys. I didn't ask for the name of it. It is one of CT's amps. CT is the guy that does the niche things for, you know, Schiit products and other things. I think this is his personal amp. Actually, just, what the heck? I'll just pop the picture up so you guys can tell me, because I did not do a good job of taking a note on that. Also, after I looked at the picture, there was no name on it, so I couldn't even write that down. But it was playing off of this. And the Dhalia is very interesting because it has these mods that you can put on there within the pad. That ring can actually go on the pad. Now, I listened to what they consider their balanced version, which is without this ring. And wow. I mean, I gave it 3 stars, if that tells you anything. That was an incredible listen. It was very comfortable. It's 406 grams in weight, I believe. I don't know. Somebody must have told me that because I didn't have like, oh, it's printed on the sign. Yeah, 406 grams in weight, so it's very comfortable. It has a very full low end. It was very crisp in the highs. Excellent resolution and impactful and fast. And the cool thing about it is it's not a planar. And that was actually the compliment that I gave Nicholas there at the booth. Is I was like, when I was listening to it, I said, this isn't a planar, right? He's like, no. I was like, man, it's fast for a dynamic driver headphone. And that's an accomplishment. And like I said, you got the impact nature and everything else. That was easily in my top 3 of headphones that I heard at CanJam. Simply because it was one of those surprise things. Like, going in there, I think I maybe heard Jude at HeadFi talk about it on the video, and I wrote it down, but it wasn't anything I was like, oh, I got to go check this one out for sure. It's just something I wanted to check out. But when the Bay Area guys told me to go check it out, yeah, I am so glad that I did. And I'm so glad that I did it early enough in day 1, because I wasn't at a point where I was fatigued on listening to anything yet. And just, I mean, I sat there for a little bit of time and listened to a lot of music with it on. And I didn't even switch the pads. And only because I'm hoping, again, at some point to get that headphone in to get a extended listen on. Who knows, maybe even do a purchase of it because it was that good. Using ZMF pads, you know, I don't know how many headphone companies now are using ZMF pads. It's incredible. It just shows, you know, what Zach has going on there, and just an awesome, awesome headphone. And did I not even show a picture of it? I don't think I did. Sorry about that. Well, it's on my head, but let me go back. That is kind of what it looks like. That's not a great shot of it, but I think it looks cool too. And he had different spokes or, you know, the stems for the adjustment there. They had one that was shorter and that one that was longer. I'm wearing the one that was a little bit longer, but fit my head perfectly fine. And just an incredible sounding headphone. That video is not how I took it, so I'm just not going to mess with you guys and show it that way. That brings me to Audeze, which is next on the list. All right, sorry, you're going to check up to the chat here for a second. Rigo, what's going on, man? And yeah, 1988, interesting name. Welcome to the chat. And Juan, great meeting you there, man. And yeah, I'm getting to your headphone for sure, because that was another big highlight of the show for me as well. So Juan, by the way, guys, makes the Sierra headphone that has gained a lot of popularity, and for damn good reason, because it's good. So, all right, so moving on to Audeze, I wanted to check out the Carbon 2. I listened to the original Carbon, I think it was last year at SoCal, and I really liked the Carbon for just, you know, for everything that it was. And the Carbon 2, I don't know, I put down 2 stars because, you know, it did have, you know, excellent resolution and all of that. Just a great sounding headphone, of course. But I got some moments with that headphone that it was almost too aggressive. And I remember telling the rep there from Audeze, she was doing like 1 minute video clips, or not even 1 minute, 1 word video clips, where she would say, you know, tell me 1 word to describe what you heard with the Carbon 2. And I said, shocking, because, and I meant that in a good and not good way. Shocking because it was a lot of information and it sounded excellent to me. It had good punchiness to it. Wasn't any kind of bleeding going on. Very snappy, very directional, very wide. But there were times that it just got edgy for me. And that was on, let me go back to my photos because I have, pretty sure I have the amp that it was on here, so I don't say that wrong. That was one of them. That wasn't the one I listened on, that silver there. This one, the LTA. Excellent amp, excellent pairing. And if anybody listened to that headphone, that was the pairing they needed to listen to, because apparently on the other amp, somebody gave a 1 word impression and they said ass. So obviously not the right amp for that headphone, and I think they immediately switched it to the LTA. The LTA was incredible, and not to poke fun at Audeze, but, you know, yeah, it was an incredible amp to pair up with the Carbon 2, and that's why I said Carbon 2 is something I honestly probably won't have the chance to get in, just because of the electrostat nature of it. I need the amp as well to go with it, but it was still a very good sounding headphone. I would like more time with, perhaps at a future CanJam, just to see what I think. But it was kind of a mixed bag. I remember also and I did write this down, you don't need much volume. Like, what I mean by aggressive is, like, if I was sitting at maybe 9 o'clock on the volume pot or 10 o'clock on the volume pot, I'd barely move it and it would jump. And it could get aggressive and I would have to turn it back down. And it kind of depends on the track, but it was interesting for that. All right, let's see some Audeze comments here that we got. Kevin spent a lot of time listening to LCD2. I bought an LCD2 after the show. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things. I remember listening to one last year, and I honestly liked it. Now, did you get the new one with the, yeah, I don't know, with the new wood that they have in the cups? I'm guessing, is that the one that you got? Because I think that one looked beautiful when I saw it. And then other Kevin, LTA Z10E is an endgame amp. Yeah. I mean, oh, 5,500. Okay. Well, there you go. I mean, not that money always dictates a good product, but yeah, $5,500. I can see that now because, yeah, that was an excellent amp to pair up with that headphone. So that was all I did at Audeze. Again, I needed to get through these impressions of things that I wanted to get to. So from there, I headed to, oh, you did get the new wood. Kevin is saying, nice. I mean, why wouldn't you? That thing looked incredible. So, congrats, man. That is a nice looking headphone. And I'm sure it does sound good. So, from there, I actually went to the ZMF room. So, and I went there twice. I always visit ZMF twice. How can you not? So, I went there to listen to the Bokeh Open. And even though I'd already heard it at New York and told Zach almost annoyingly how much I love the Bokeh Open, and I think he knows that. He probably has it printed on his forehead. Skeeb loves the Bokeh Open. But he's done some more tweaks to it since New York to SoCal. So I wanted to see, you know, what I could hear from whatever he's done to that headphone. And I'll tell you one thing that Zach did was he went ahead and added a couple of different grill options. So you can actually listen, or not listen, but you can actually choose, if you want to, different grill options now of the Bokeh Open. And not to buy, but I'm saying he was taking like votes at CanJam. And you know what, guys? I got ahead of myself of, sorry, not showing you at least some photos of the Carbon 2. Because, again, I thought the aesthetics in that was beautiful as well, of that headphone. But yeah, so here's a quick video of the ZMF room. This was actually their biggest room at a CanJam yet. And I was happy for them because they need that with how much stuff they bring between all the amps, Stax, headphones. Now, they didn't quite have as many headphones this time around as I've seen in the past. And I remember even telling Zach, I get it, but I was a little bummed that he didn't have his Cellier stands, because those things are beautiful. The new resin ones that he has out are gorgeous, but he didn't bring any of those with him there because I definitely wanted to check them out in person. Probably a good idea, didn't, because then I'd just want to buy one. But yeah, so just some pictures of headphones on the shelf, some different variations of things, some beautiful headphones, as always, from Zach. Another video. Now, this was the Aegis amp right next to a whole line of just top-of-the-line amps on that table. It was incredible. And yes, it is Aegis, because I mistakenly have been calling it Aegis, and then I saw Zach's video talking to Lord Gwyn, and he said it's Aegis. So, good to know. All right, so there's one version of the Bokeh Open grill. So this one, kind of circular, and it's hard to tell from this picture. I don't know why it came out so brownish, but that's actually like a charcoal gray color on that wood. And when I get the Bokeh Open, because I will definitely get the gray. I just love that gray. I'm not a fan of the yellow under the grill, and Zach said that's not something they're going to keep. So that's good for me, at least. And then this is another variation of the grill that you can see. So that's a little bit different. I do like that colorway also on that headphone, and just a beautiful headphone once again by Zach with the Cayin amp behind there. And that's that one. Now you can tell what I'm talking about. That looks more charcoal there than that other picture. I don't know why that came out so brown, but camera phone, what can you expect? Well, should expect a lot. It's expensive. And yeah, just some more pictures. This is another grill option. Now, a lot of guys liked this grill option. And I gotta be honest, this is probably my number 2 favorite, because they had the original Bokeh Open. I don't know if you guys remember that. I don't have a picture to show you, but I liked that grill the most still, and this is easily my number 2. So, yeah, I think that was what my friends voted as well. Was, I think they called it the squiggly grill, and then just some different amps and things. So now for the Bokeh Open, yeah, and Zach did a video where he asked different impressions on that, and I was kind of standing there like an idiot. So, but yeah, I told him I liked the original Bokeh Open as well, and the other guys said they liked the squiggly ones. Thoughts on the Cayin IHA-8 amp? I have many. I actually have a video. So if you check out my channel, if you'd like to know a lot more on that, I did an entire video of the IHA-8 because I own it. I had it in for a demo from Zach to listen to and do a video on, and I ended up keeping it and buying it for myself because that's how much I like that amp. Let me catch up on a couple of things here. Juan said the Carbon 2 is great. Had the last demo of the weekend before they packed up. The marketing lead was pretty stoked on it. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I had good impressions with the Carbon 2, and it's one of those I want some more time with just to see if, man, could just been the music I was listening to was just too aggressive for some of the times, or some of the samples I took. So, very possible. Josh, how does it compare to the Bokeh Closed? I'm also trying to remember the rest of your ZMF lineup. How does this compare to the Verite and Atrium? That's a lot of comparison questions that I probably am not ready to answer for you until I'm actually getting one in to listen. But I can tell you that the Bokeh Open, he tamed the bass a bit. And that's the first thing I asked him. And he said, yes, I toned down that bass response. He said, is that bad? And honestly, for me, I love bass, but it still was good. So I said, no, it's not bad, because I think what he was going for there was a tad bit more neutral than maybe what it was originally when I heard it at New York, because it might have been a little bit more on the warmer bassy side. But this tamed a little bit, but it's still, I cannot wait to compare it to my Autours on my head, because my only thing I don't care for about this headphone is I want more bass out of it, which I don't get unless it's with like an OTL tube amp or something like that, whereas the Bokeh Open just has it. But I'd be curious to test how resolution and just clarity and things are between this headphone to the Bokeh Open, and really get a good example or a good, sample of that. Compared to the Bokeh Closed, I can't tell you a whole lot, unfortunately, because I have only sampled the Bokeh Closed at CanJams. I know Tyler, if you check out his channel, he loves the Bokeh Closed. I think he did a video on that, and he's wore it on some lives, so I know he's a big fan of that headphone. To me, that headphone seems to be very, very hit or very miss. Not very miss, but hit or miss, because some people have said, it's all right, and then other people have loved it. It's a more portable ZMF, that's for sure, easier to drive, and the Bokeh Open is going to be the same way. The other thing I'm really excited about is I think the Bokeh Open is going to end up being about $100 less than the Closed. And the Closed, I think, is $1,099, so that must mean the Open's going to be like $999. So for $1,000, I mean, we're talking about some really stiff competition in headphones. But yeah, I think it's going to be up to the challenge. I think a lot of people are going to like it. Let's see. Oh, the IHA-8. Great, check it out. How about Cayin DAC or iDAC? No, I didn't get any impressions at home with the iDAC or the DAC, but I did listen to the stack at CanJam in his room, and it's hard to tell you because when you have the whole thing stacked together, what am I hearing type thing, but it's a nice stack when it's all paired up. It gets really hot. That's the other thing about the IHA-8. That amp gets very hot. With the Caldera, I did, but not the Open. I tried the Caldera Closed because I had that in for quite a while from ZMF, and I definitely paired that up with the IHA-8, and that was a lovely pairing. The IHA-8 can drive anything, guys. It's a very powerful amp that has a hyper mode that makes it really nice. So it's an amp I definitely recommend for $1,000. Favorite ZMF closeback? Favorite closeback? I believe you like Radiance and A2 Noir. Also, did you get a chance to hear the Sony? No. And I'm bummed about that because I know Sony had an entire booth there and I just didn't make it to them to check that out. But yeah, I mean, my favorite closeback just so happens to be a ZMF, and that is the Caldera Closed. I have the Atrium Closed. It's sitting there. Thumb, go the right way. There. And I love the Atrium Closed, but the Caldera Closed, it was something special that I got in, and it'll be maybe on a list at some day, only because I love the Atrium Closed so much. I don't see myself moving on from that one. Outside of that, the Dan Clark Audio E3, I own that for a while, and I still say that's a very good closeback headphone, just because it's got that open nature to the sound, more so even than the Atrium Closed, but the Atrium Closed can have a lot of fun with tubes. The Caldera Closed, though, was just, man, with the different meshes and the different pads that you can swap to that headphone, you can pretty much get the kind of sound signature that you want with that headphone, give or take, and it's going to sound absolutely excellent. I would take the Caldera Closed over the Caldera Open. And that's just me. I know a lot of people absolutely love the Open, and I don't blame them for that. But the Caldera Close is even a little bit, maybe a little bit warmer. Hard to say. I didn't compare them, A-B them next to each other. I just know from my own feelings that I got when listening to those, I had a much stronger feeling on the Caldera Closed. He did a amazing job with the Caldera Closed. Yeah, the Cayin amp. So that's the Cayin Soul I think you're talking about. They had that in the ZMF room, of course, but they had that around CanJam as well on a couple of different headphones. And I did get a chance to listen to the Cayin Soul on the Atrium Closed. And yeah, I mean, it's an expensive amp, but it's also, I think, let me see if I have a picture popped up as I'm talking. Yeah, I do. I'll put that back up. So that is that's the Cayin Soul amp, and just a robust build, fantastic build. I mean, Cayin makes some solid amplifiers and just gear in general. And, you know, this has some different options with, you know, your impedance switches. And let me see if I can zoom in enough to see that. Yeah, you have your different modes here. Now, I didn't ask what all these different modes were, so I should have, but I didn't. They even have a timbre mode between dynamic and soft, which is cool. This mode here, I think this might be like a kind of like a hyper switch on the IHA-8. You got your outputs, of course. You got your sources that you can switch to. Like I said, you got your different balanced options, your standard options, your impedance options, and then, you know, one hell of a nice knob on the volume pot. It's a very good amplifier from Cayin, no surprise. As far as impressions of it, I didn't get that detailed on it, quite honestly. It just sounded amazing. Atrium Closed became very full. It had more lush bass. I did write that down because Atrium Open, sorry. I own the Atrium Open, and I actually moved on from it when I bought the Atrium Closed because I wanted more bass. That's a lot more bass. And tubes can really bring out the low end of the Atrium Open, and you still get the excellent resolution and clarity and staging that you get from the Open, and the Cayin Soul was an amazing pairing on that. So was the Aegis. I think the Aegis makes anything better, to be honest, because anything I heard on that amp was good. So let me see where my notes went to next. Rigo Open all the time. Yeah, we've talked on that. I know you prefer your open backs, but I know him and I have talked about the Dan Clark Audio E3. It is a good closed back headphone, guys. If you have one around $2,000, definitely, if you get a chance, compare it to like ZMF, because it does have some punchiness. It's probably a little bit brighter, but some people are going to like that part of it. Excellent resolution. It can scale a little bit too, because it's not the easiest to drive headphone for being portable, but the E3s, they did a nice job with that one. And yeah, Josh D, I definitely listened to some things on the Aegis. Like I said, the Atrium Open, I think I listened to the Caldera Open on the Aegis, but as I get through my pages here, only because I can't remember which headphone it was, there's another couple of headphones I listened to on it as well. I'll make sure to mention that when I get around to it. Yeah, Audio Technica, that was one of them. All right, so from there I went to the Woo room, which Woo is almost always paired up with Abyss when they're at CanJams. They work together on a lot of things, because I wanted to check out the 20th anniversary 24 amp, the WA24 that they had. They actually had a Susvara Unveiled on that amp. Let me see if I got that picture ready for you guys, so you know what I'm talking about. Oh, hang on. I'm sorry. Let me talk about one other thing in ZMF really quick before I move on from that. And that is the B21. Zach said this much better on his video, by the way, so you can watch him how he like shouts it out. I'm not going to do that, but it's a B21 amp. Now, this one's cool because you can plug in eStats or regular headphones to it. There's actually a switch on there to switch between the two. You can't listen to them at the same time. Probably wouldn't want to do that for volume anyway. But yeah, I listened to this, and I don't know if it's because I was just listening to the Cayin Soul amp before that, but it wasn't anything special to me, honestly. And again, 4 or 5 minutes of a listen, don't quote me for any of that. Somebody else may think this is the most amazing thing ever, and if they do, great. But I just had a short listen with it, and I just didn't, there wasn't anything that stood out to me as different from something else I heard. Let's just say that, to where, I was going to be just blown away by it. But yes, I did get a chance to listen to that, and I think it was the Atrium Open, actually, that I listened to that as well, because it was on the Cayin Soul amp as well. All right, so Tyler, what's going on, man? Thanks for jumping on. Yes, always great to see you at CanJam. He is, he's my social buffer when I get to hang out with Tyler, because I'm terribly introverted and don't mean to be that way. It's just how I am. But he's a trained extrovert. He will tell you, and he's very good at it. So, yeah. So I moved on to the Woo Room, like I said, to check out the new amp, and I was trying to find a picture for you guys. Let me get back to that. And this is actually a video, which is fine. Not the greatest quality, but I will show it to you because it is a beautiful amp. Woo just makes beautiful products, in my opinion. And yes, that was the new amp that they had. You see the 20th anniversary there. Like I said, not the greatest video. It's grainy, but it gives you an idea. And they had that at the time paired up with a Susvara Unveiled. There's a nice front shot of it. And we'll get to that in a second here. But I gotta say, on the Susvara Unveiled, I didn't hear anything there that I didn't hear at home on the Holo Stack, which, Holo Stack's an excellent stack. Or even, honestly, on some of my amps that I have. The Unveiled is just not as picky. So that's something you have to remember with the Susvara Unveiled. So it's going to sound good in a lot of things. I also heard from multiple people that they weren't very impressed with the new Woo amp because apparently they had, I don't know what DAC it was, but whatever DAC they had paired up to it wasn't up to the challenge for that amp. And so I think Woo did fix that later and did something different on it. But I didn't listen to any other headphone than the Susvara Unveiled on it. And so because of that, I didn't get any different kind of impression to tell you guys that was, anything I wanted to speak to anyway. Let's put it that way. The 23 Luna is still an incredible amp, and I guess for me, and I actually heard this from others too, there was nothing that made them think this is so much better than the 23 Luna, but that doesn't mean they may not do something a little different. I think that's actually the only one, the 24 I'm talking about, the anniversary edition. I think that was actually the only one Woo has right now, was what was at the show. I think that's what I was told. So, who knows, they may tweak something on that. Not to say it was bad, just comparing it to a 23 Luna, some didn't really find it to be anything better. Vegan Vicar, thanks for joining, man. And yeah, so from there in that room, I did want to check out the Diana DZ. And actually listen to the DZ on day 1 and day 2, because I think this was towards the end of day 1 for me when I listened to the DZ. And no pun intended, but I was a little DZ myself from listening to so much stuff that I just it was getting to that point where it's just a wall of sound. Not that the headphones sounded that way, but I'm saying like everything was starting to be just a wall of sound, where I'm like, I need to shut down for the day, go eat, come back refreshed, and do this again tomorrow. And so that's what I did. So my impressions of the DZ, I can tell you, was decent, but yeah, I guess it doesn't make sense to skip forward later. So I'll go ahead and skip forward to day 2 and just tell you that on day 2, I came back and I listened to the DZ on the Woo Tube Mini. And I love that tube amp, that portable tube amp, and it pairs with so many things so well. And I know Abyss is probably like, come on, you should have listened to something different than a Tube Mini. I know, I should have, but it did sound really good on the Tube Mini. It had a fast response to it. It was full sounding mids, lush. Vocals sounded excellent to me on that. It was smooth. and is definitely a headphone I want more time with. I haven't really been able to check out any Abyss headphone yet, and from everything I've heard so far, the DZ at least spoke a little more to me than others have in the past, other than the 1266. I mean, that was one of those things that was like an experience when I heard it, because I heard it on a Lena stack. But yeah, I gotta say the DZ is something I hope to check out in much more detail and get an actual video out, and definitely listen on some of my own DACs and amps, just because, like I said, I didn't get a chance to really get as good of an impression as I wanted at CanJam. And talking to the Woo, not the Woo guys, talk to them too, but talking to the Abyss guys about that, you know, it's something I'm hoping to be able to work out to get a DZ in to listen to, and get an impression out for you guys. You know, something like my Holo Cyan 2 for a DAC is going to do well. The amps I'm sure I have are going to do well with that headphone, because it's not extremely difficult to drive, and I just want more intimate time with it to check it out. It's a beautiful headphone in my opinion too. Now, the one probably critique I would say on Abyss is that somebody coming from the outside, I literally could not tell the difference between their headphones. I had somebody tell me, so that, you know, they could tell me. I was like, I want to listen to a DZ, but which one is it? And then they're like, okay, let me find it for you. So yeah, I mean, like Tom said there, I mean, the guys were great. They were very helpful. So nothing bad to say about that. Tyler, thanks, man, for joining. Have a good one. Yeah, and so I see you guys commenting on some of the Abyss stuff there. So yeah, I mean, I'm hoping, like I said, to check it out some more with the DZ and actually get a video on it for you guys to check out. So Norm, who's actually a later addition for the Abyss team, was there. You'll see him on the streams too. He's a funny guy, and he had a lot of great, you know, suggestions of things to pair with that headphone that I just didn't get a chance to there. You can tell he's very passionate and great addition to their team. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to checking that out. Actually, in that room was where I met Antonio Meze. He happened to be in there listening to the Diana DZ as well. No, I didn't ask him his impression of it, but got a chance to meet him and talk to him for a couple of minutes about some of his background. And then, of course, Mike and Jack of Woo. If you guys watch this later, very nice meeting you guys in person again. Mike, I've met him a couple of times already, but, you know, through email chats and things, you know, Woo has, you know, supported my channel and been able to send me some things to check out. And I know they want to continue to do so, and I'm looking forward to that. You know, their products kind of remind me of like a ZMF or a Meze that they put a lot of effort into build, and I appreciate that when companies do that. It shows a lot of care into their products, and they take feedback, which is also excellent. They want to know, you know, if you don't like something, what will you change, you know, et cetera, things like that. And yeah, I can't wait to check out more Woo products. Those guys are excellent. If you go to CanJam, talk to them. They are excellent guys to talk to. And they gave me a shirt. I don't have it sitting here with me, but yeah, they had shirts they were giving out there as well at the Woo booth. So, all right. DZ on the Mini sounded just as good as the 31,000 DCS Lena equipment. It's a bold statement, but hey, I mean, I can't say for sure on that, but if that's what you heard, then that's awesome. He's saying that the Diana DZ on the Tube Mini, I think you meant Tube Mini, I wasn't sure, sounded just as good as the DCS stack of $31,000 equipment. Hey, it happens. It's just goes to show, though, also that I think that headphone's going to pair up with many things pretty easily. So, all right, guys, sorry, rambling. Next, I went to the Final Audio booth and checked out the D8000. Let me see if I've got pictures of that one, which I should. Yeah, I do. Stop looking at me for a second. Yeah, so this is the D8000. Now, unfortunately, I didn't listen to the other one, but that's okay. This is the one I had time to spend with and actually was recommended to check out. And for my short listening and my goofy rating system, I decided to give it a 2-star because my ratings matter. But I did say that it was thumpy, had a nice warm sound to it, good mid-presence, very full. It was a bit heavy on the top of my head for a comfort standpoint, but had excellent bass texture, did not bleed or anything like that, excellent resolution. I mean, I wrote down lots and lots of notes on it, that it was just a very good listen compared to the 7000 that I heard at New York that I did not care for, honestly, at all. That one was a much better listen, and, you know, if I get a chance to at some point to check out the 8000, I would like to do that, just based off of my short impression that I had at CanJam there. Price, I get it, they're pricey. That's why I'd want a little more time on my own to kind of really decide on that one. I'm going to try to move through some of these a little bit quicker here. Actually, I'll talk about my first IEM. I will tell you guys that I did not sample a ton of IEMs, kind of on purpose, because I am more of a headphone guy, but also I realize IEMs matter, and especially for the channel, I need to talk about them more and get into them more. So I checked out the Macbeth. Now, if you don't know, the Macbeth is Forte ears. They were right there at the booth with Eletech, and I do have some pictures of that. So let me pull that up. I will share the screen. So these aren't the greatest pictures, again, on my phone, just because of lighting. But the Macbeth is beautiful, just like all the Eletech cables and accessories are beautiful. And a couple of different pictures I have there of that IM. Now, it's $4,000 with the stock cable. And then you can get their upgraded cable, which I didn't catch the name of it. I should have wrote it down. But there's an upgraded cable that is also $4,000. Insane, right? So, and yeah, that's the Eletech booth that was right next there. So basically, you can get the Macbeth, top of the line version of it, for $8,000. But what I can tell you, I put 3 stars down for the Macbeth. That was the best IM that I heard at the show. Again, I didn't listen to a ton, but still that matters. It was, in one word, if I were to summarize what I heard, I wrote down theatrical. And actually it was interesting because as I was writing it down, I think on their advertisement sign, there was something about theater quality. I can't remember how it was put on the Macbeth. And I remember telling them there, I was like, yeah, that's accurate, because that's definitely what I heard. Whatever track that I listened to just felt like I was in a theater. It felt very wide, had a lot of reverberation to it. Everything was in its proper place. Timbre was just spot on, which IMs are great because at shows like this, you can at least get a little better of a listen because your outside environment does kind of go away. And at the time when I listened to the Macbeth, nobody was really around the area. So I was pretty comfortable just kind of cozying up with that IM. And I think I spent a good 10 minutes there at least with that one, listening to it. And that may be the cable, but I'm not sure on that. And then the Eletech cables and the accessories there are just excellent as well. They have their different series of cables that we're seeing there. That was the next thing. So yeah, the Macbeth, I would say that if you're somebody that's looking for a top of the line, just Summit Phi type level IEM, yeah, absolutely. It's just an incredible IEM. There was no spiciness going on. There was nothing that was fatiguing. There was no aggressiveness of it. Like I said, just a theatrical experience in my head. Was amazing. Hey, that's subjective too. Pictus said the Macbeth looks ugly. Yeah, I mean, some people are not going to like that, just like you said. And yeah, Tom, I don't know. I think you're talking about Eletech. One of the coolest tables. Reminds me of Castlevania. Yeah, I love visiting Eletech at CanJam. Not to mention like talking to him, but just, yeah, the cables and their designs around things. I've got the Raphael cable. You know, I did a video on the Baroque tips. Even the packaging. Like, I'd pay $50 for the packaging. They go all out with all of that stuff. And it's a showstopper, in my opinion, when you see it. So, yeah, definitely. From there, I went into the room that had the Viva amps, a couple of them. And they had an Immanis in there. Immanis. And I didn't get a chance to listen to that. Now, my buddy Alex said it was the best thing he heard at the show was the Immanis on a Viva amp. But I listened to a Raw 1995 on one of their amps, and that was incredible. So, I mean, there is that, but it just wasn't... it wasn't one of, hang on, my notes are all, no, it was a Stax, I apologize, that I was listening to on the Viva amps in there. Didn't give a lot of impression on there because I didn't spend much time, but that was my next note, was that I went out to listen to the Immanis, so apologize for that confusion. And let me pull that up. The Viva amps are incredible, by the way, just to look at, and let alone hear. But yeah, this was the best in show for me, honestly, was the Immanis. I mean, at $8,000, I mean, yeah, that's kind of should be expected in a way, although you could say that about the Susvara Unveiled too. But yeah, just the sound of this headphone was everything for me. So this was paired up on a Felix Envy amp when I was listening to it. Strikingly detailed is what I wrote down, because it was. To the edge of bright, but not bright. That's what I mean, that it gets there with those details without going over the top. I wrote down, feels like I'm there, more like a live performance on some of the music tracks that I was listening to on it. It's not deep, deep low, but it's textured and full and felt and completed the music all around for me. It was so good of a listen to me. And yeah, I can understand why a lot of people, you know, said that that was their, you know, best in show headphone as well. And I missed out on it at New York, so I definitely wanted to make sure I heard it there. Not to mention, it's absolutely beautiful. Like this headphone with some Eletech cables, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the pairing I imagine. Not that there's anything wrong with the cable they had, but just that, you know, gold wire-ish grill that they have on there, and the detail and etching that they had to put into making that. I was talking to, you know, their rep there about all that. Is very, very interesting to hear. And then they also had the Felix amp. What else did I get here? Well, that's just a short video, so you guys can kind of see how that table was set up. And then on their other amp there was the Magna, which is the, you know, somewhat cheaper version of the RAL. And that's a picture of that one. That one was also very good. Now, I didn't write down as much details in that one because I didn't listen to it quite as long, because at that point I had already listened to the Immanis a lot and didn't want to spend too much more time before moving on. But that was also an excellent listen. And I know a lot of people, you know, I've heard a lot of people would say they would just save the money and buy that one because they thought that one was, you know, almost there as the Immanis. So, which I can definitely understand. Okay, let me see where my notes take me to next here. Catch up on the chat. Oh yeah, Outure Classic is what I'm wearing there, not the Caldera. Like one of the colorful Bokeh, but I need to get a pair of electrostats first. Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting a pair of E-stats at some point, but that's a little bit of a different investment with the different amp things. All right, so moving on here, guys. Let me see what's next on my video to make sure I'm good. Yes, this is what I thought. All right, so a lot of people know Viking Weave cables. If you've had a Tungsten or heard about the Tungsten, you know they partner with Viking Weave cables for the cable for that. Well, he made a headphone. It's Skedra's headphone, and it's called the Draupnir. It's Draupnir, and somebody told me it's pronounced Draupnir. And it's supposed to be the Ring of Odin, I think is kind of the quotation from it. And I will show you the video and picture that I have here, so you can check this out. Because if you're like me, when I first saw it, I was like, what is this? And not in a bad way. I meant like, that's one of the coolest things I've seen. And it's got two drivers on it. And actually is comfortable, even though that might look that would be a little uncomfortable. And buddy Alex behind me. Shout out to Beef Supreme. And yeah, I mean, it's got two drivers on there. And that was the next stop after that. And the amount of bass. So there's a switch inside the headphone that you take the cup off, or the cup, you take the pad off, and on the inside is a switch that is either bass boosted or not. Not bass boosted was serious bass. I mean, we're talking deep, It was speedy. It was fantastic. Still had good resolution. Still had big sound from that headphone, even with being as bassy as it was. It was in my top 3 to top 5 for headphones that I listened to at CanJam. And an absolute incredible headphone and a super cool design. I flipped the bass boost on, and sorry, Zeos, but that was more violent than the Eris. I mean, just rumbled, and I actually wrote down "holy shit" because that was my impression when I flipped the bass boost button on there and listened. I can't remember what I listened to, but it was too much, honestly, for me. And I love bass, but it did kind of deaden out the rest of the frequency response. So maybe they're gonna do something different with that tuning on there, or if that's just what you want, go for it, because that was definitely the go for it button. And that was an incredible listen and a really cool headphone, and got to talk to Skedra for a little bit on it. And I saw a lot of people checking out his booth. He happened to be right next to Zeos, so Zeos already kind of brings people into his area. So that was kind of the bass corner. I remember my friends and I were even saying that, because you had like his headphone there, and then you had the Eris, and then in between there was actually a Tungsten sitting there too, which was on. I'll talk about that really quick. I don't think I got pictures of that, but they had the Modhouse Tungsten, I think it was double-sided, pretty sure, on the Cayin Soul amp. And yeah, that's what I'm saying. That Cayin Soul amp was excellent, and everything I've liked about the Tungsten sounded great on that amp. There was definitely no lack of power coming out of that amp to drive that Tungsten. It sounded incredible. But it does take me to the next booth that was right next to there, and that was Zeos's booth that he had the harmonic dyne Eris with. $250 headphone. He was selling it for $220 at CanJam for a show price, and he was having some fun with people, as Zeos does, and he was letting people listen to that headphone with movies. It was some Tom Cruise, one of the Mission Impossibles, I think, was one of them he was showing off just for the explosions. It's like if Michael Bay had a headphone, the Eris. There you go, Zeos. There's your compliment on that. It was like so cool. People were checking it out in movies. They were blown away by that. It's just a fun headphone. I mean, that's what it is, in my opinion. It's not an audiophile, like mid-centric headphone that's, got this nice balance. No, it's got a lot of bass. He tells you on the box that it's bass violence. It is. And it's a fun headphone. So much fun, in fact, I bought it. It was $220 at the show. A couple of my friends had it too, and I was like, what the hell? So I got with Zeos, and on day 2 before I left, I picked up the Eris, and it is sitting there. So now hopefully Bree doesn't watch any of this stream, at least for a little while, because a little hint to you guys, for any of you that have watched my channel and have seen the High Five for Bree series that we do, we got a part 2 coming out tomorrow. Actually, we call it season 2. And she's going to be checking out headphones. And the Eris is going to be one of the headphones she's going to check out. I haven't told her anything about it. So yeah, I can't wait for her to tell me what she thinks of the Eris. And the other one I'll talk about here in a second, or in a couple of minutes. But yeah, that was the Zeos booth. So moving on from there, right down the line, in fact, was the Fostex area, and they had their new TH11000 RP, or 1100 RP, and the TH1000 RP. Now, the 1000 was closed, the 1100 was open. And if this tells you anything, the 1100 I gave a 1 star. I don't know what it is with some of the Fostex stuff, but the tunings are just kind of strange to me. And I actually wrote that down too. Mid-focused, it was a bit intimate. Forward, kind of a cold sound. Decent impactfulness, I did say that. Some bitiness to guitars and things, a little bit of poppy, just not a lot of thump to it. And it was on a bioelectric amp, the DHA 226, so it was on a good amp. No, I just didn't care for that headphone. Now, I will say the closed version, the 1000 RP, was a bit better. It had a little bit more sizzle to it, but had good more low-end extension. Kind of hazy is what I wrote down as well. to be honest, I was disappointed with both of those headphones. I had high hopes because I had done a review of the TH-808, and I'm probably one of the rare people that thought that headphone was pretty decent. Now, I know if you switch pads on it, it's supposed to be better. But I thought it was pretty decent, so I was kind of looking forward to checking out these two and did not care for them. In fact, so much that the next headphone I listened to was the new Fostex T50. Now, this is the fourth version, I believe, T50 RP4. 3 stars. For what that headphone's going to come out at, which I think is somewhere in the $150, $200 range, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's a very stapled Fostex product, you know, the one that Zach modified and other people have done, you know, Modhouse has done modifications to it. That was incredible. I said, good sub bass, it was smooth, good low end, has some pop to it. Not quite as energetic, but that's okay. Definitely had some energy in the mids though. And I said, I like this better than both high-end headphones, hands down. And it was. And my friends agreed too. We were all kind of disappointed. And then we listened to that and we were like, wow, where did this come from? Like, just had a better balance of sound over both of their high-end products. And I think they're going to sell a lot of that headphone, to be honest with you. I think when other people hear it too, it's definitely going to be a contender in that range and is one I would recommend. I kind of hope I get a chance to get one in to do a full video on, to be honest, because I think that one deserves some attention. So, and actually, as I'm sitting here just rambling on, sorry guys, let me show you a few photos at least, so you can see what I'm talking about. So that was this is the open version. So this is the Fostex, I think I said 1100. I didn't get a picture. Oh no, I did. That's a picture of the closed. And then that's the new T50 RP4. Excellent, excellent sounding headphone for sure. And is one I would like to check out more. And then we also talked to the Fostex guys there. If you've never experienced it, I don't know where he pulled the video of, but he had a video of how they make their cups. Actually, like getting this material out of trees that is poisonous or something, and it makes the resin on their cups. It was a cool thing to watch and experience, and I feel like that's something that sometimes gets missed by these companies is, you know, the effort that they put into some of their builds and designs. And, you know, I remember even saying that to him, that, hey, you know what, I may not like the sound of the headphone, but the build behind it was pretty neat to see. All right, what kind of wood do you have on the ZMF atrium closed? Zach's gonna shoot me. I don't remember. I'd have to go look it up. Thank you, Tom, or She Lacquer. That is what it's called that they use for the Fostex, what Tom just said. And yeah, it was an incredible process to watch that video of just how unique that is for them to design that headphone. So from there, around the corner was the Chord booth. And I got to check out their new Alto amp, which is a very interesting amp. And I think I have, if I don't have a picture, I've got a video here that was playing. Let me see. That's also their turntable they had there, which was pretty cool. I didn't get a chance to listen to that, but it was neat to see. There it is. So that's the Alto. It actually has 4 headphone connections on there, 4 outputs for your headphones, and there is 4.4. But what's interesting about that is it's not a true balance 4.4. Chord is very, like, they stick to their guns that they don't believe you need balanced. If you've, you know, heard Mojo 2, and you know, it's a very famous portable DAC amp. A lot of people complain that it doesn't have balance, that it's just the dual 3.5, but I've experienced it. You don't need it. It sounds excellent coming out of the unbalance, and Chord kind of sticks to that with their products. But this time around, they decided to put a 4.4 output on there, even though it is not a truly balanced output. It allows you to at least have more versatility in what you connect to it. There was a lot of other things about this amp too that, you know, I quite honestly didn't write down all the notes for, other than the fact that the headphone that I was listening to on it was the Meze Elite, and that was I even told my friends, I was like, that's probably one of the best versions of the Meze Elite that I've heard was on that amp. Just how musical it sounded was absolutely incredible until I, walked down the way and then listened to it on the TIAC. That was right down from there. And that was also equally, if not even a little better than that. But yeah, I mean, Chord's definitely got a winner there. Their products are not cheap, I will say that, but I dig their products. I think they're some of the cool stuff. All right, that brings me to the, actually, I'm not going to talk about that quite yet. That's an Aegis amp. But that actually brought me to Campfire. I said I didn't talk about IEMs a whole lot. This was one of the other times that I checked out some IEMs. I listened to quite a few of the Campfire Audio IEMs. I definitely wanted to check out their newest one. So I listened to the Clara, and I listened on my DC Elite because I brought that with me to CanJam. And the Clara, I wrote down, I gave it 2 stars for my listen, short listening time. I wrote down it was punchy, good resolution, good extension, fullness, bit relaxed in the mids. I kind of find that with some of the Campfire stuff, at least from what I've experienced so far. That's kind of a thing. Strong pop on the drums. Fit was a bit strange, but it had a good seal. And I don't think, I know I didn't. I didn't get any pictures of the Campfire booth. I don't know why. I think my phone maybe, that's why. I was using my phone to listen to music, so that's why I didn't get pictures of it. But yeah, the Clara I thought was pretty good. Sweet vocals, was not too stabby. It's a bit intimate for what I was hearing anyway. And did have, I wrote down weird treble sizzle I picked up from the Clara. But again, short 5-minute listen, 5-10 minutes, whatever it was that I listened to that. From there, I went and listened to the Astrolith. I didn't care for that. Full extension, not as energetic. Vocals to me were too distant. And it had some type of a 7 or 8K peak that just kept popping up, and I didn't like it. And so I honestly didn't listen to that IM very long at all, just because I didn't care for it. Now that's on the DC Elite. Who knows? Maybe on the RU7 it would have been a little different. I kind of doubt it, but there is that. And then the last thing I listened to was the Bonneville, because I've been told I need to listen to a Bonneville. Nothing new, I get that, but it's kind of a staple on their lineup. And yeah, I gave it like a 2.5 stars for me. Very spacious, bit forward, sweet vocals, good lows, very full, digs down. Sometimes too spicy on the highs, but it had good dynamics as well. Bit intimate for me at some points, but good sub-bass extension. Yeah, I would say listening to the Fathom and having time with the Fathom that I did before, and then the Clara, the Astrolith, and the Bonneville, I would rank the Bonneville towards the top easily, and the Clara is probably right there with it as well, maybe even second, I would say, for Campfire. But honestly, it's the Campfire sound, I think, is just not something that I'm necessarily as a preference of mine. I know they like to use a lot of BAs, and I'm finding as I listen to more and more IEMs, I'm not a huge BA timbre person. I know that's a thing. So Trifecta, yes. And I did not get to listen to the Trifecta the Vegan Vicar just brought up. It was on my list. It was very busy at the Campfire table, I will say that. And I just didn't want to wait any longer, and I wanted to move on. So yes, that is one that I did miss out on, because I've heard others say the Trifecta is very, very good. So, and we'll catch up on my chat here a second. Tom, I missed your chat there about surprised they're going to sell it marked for Pro only, but now people are selling it. I don't know if you were talking about the Chord amp at the time, but I kind of was getting ahead, so I'm not sure what that is that you were referring to. But from there, guys, I did move on to the Audio Technica. Now, this is probably day 2 at that point. And I wanted to check out the 3000, the ADX 3000, and the ADX 5000. I've been told you got to compare them and see what your preferences are. The Chord amp, yeah. Yeah, I thought they did mention something about that being Pro and decided to sell it. I think you're right. But yeah, I was very impressed with that amp. So with the Audio Technica, and I've got my picture already pulled up, they had it paired on this amp, the Aegis. So here's what I will say on that. I actually liked both the 3000 and the 5000 for different things, but I really have to wonder if I would still like it on something that wasn't the Aegis, only because that's an incredible amp. And for $4,000, you know, when I would get something like that home on, say, my IH8 or something, is it going to be as good? And it could be, but yeah, I have no idea. But I'm saying it was just so good on that amp, and I can't tell if that's the 3 or 5,000 on the photo there. But for the 3000, I will tell you, good mids. It was a bit too forward on cymbals when I must have been listening to some, I'm going to guess, Fleetwood Mac for cymbals. And then it was very open, but very open as in, sorry, let me correct myself there, very open in that area. Audio Technica headphones, as you can see with the grill there, it is very easy to hear your surroundings. And so at a show, and they were in a row there where there was lots going on, it was really hard to kind of zone in on what I was listening to. So that's what I mean by very open, hard to hear. But it seemed pretty punchy, good low end, and possibly some spice, because I put that down with a question mark. Again, it was kind of hard to hear with the crowd around me. The ADX 5000 is the more expensive version, and I think that one's around 2,000. I think the ADX 3000 is going to be around $800. The 5000, both were very lightweight. It felt more natural, more mid-centric, so more of that kind of, I don't even know if I want to say Harman tuning, but yeah, it was just very neutral sound to me. Had better resolution for sure, but didn't excite me as much. And I think I had heard others preferring the 3000 as well. And I think I would safely say I preferred the 3000 for that short listening time in a very loud room on the Aegis amp. Lots of elements that may not happen at home. Well, a couple of those wouldn't happen at home. So I would like more time with it. The only thing I would say about Audio Technica, it kind of reminds me somewhat of Hifiman, and I just wish their build was a little better. The headphones, like the adjustment on there, honestly, that same type of adjustment I have on a headphone I bought at Amazon a year ago for $50. Sorry, I'm just going to say that. I just wish they felt more premium for what they're going to charge for those headphones. That matters to me. So, but the sound was there. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. So now from there, I got to listen to more IEMs. I went to the Bloom audio booth, and I checked out 64 Audio. They had them there. So they had their new 64 Audio Solo is the name of the IM. That's actually the picture that I had. Let me pull that back up. So yeah, this is the Solo is what it's called. I think it's a pretty IM. It's a unique casing that they had on it. It's like a, I don't want to call it see-through mesh type deal, but kind of like that. And I got a few pictures of that. And then that one that we see there is the velour. Let me start with the Solo first. And I will just tell you that the Solo reminds me of what I just said about the Audio Technica, in that it was very detailed. It was musically stage-worthy. And I wrote down musically stage-worthy because to me, and 64 Audio is kind of known for this, to be more of a studio-type IM. They deal with a lot of, musicians. And that, to me, was kind of the perfect pairing for an IM like that. Plus, the price is not bad. I think it was in that $800 range. Not bad comparably to other things anyway. And it was neutral, not bright, had details, not as punchy for my taste. And I even wrote down, would be great for musicians to pick up, just because if you're wanting to hear, everything in a mix, you're not going to be overpowered by anything. I think it's just a smooth listen. I liked it a lot for that. For my preferences, no. But for that use case, yes. And I wouldn't deny that. Now, the 64 Audio velour. So the only reason I got to this one was when I was talking to the rep there for 64 Audio, I said, do you have something with a little more bass? And I was like, I hate to be that way, but it's kind of what feel like I'm missing out of this IM. And so he let me try the velour. Now it's more expensive, and that was the other picture that I have up here, that is the 64 Audio Velour. Pretty, in my opinion. And we'll talk about that one here next. Get back to my window. The Velour definitely had slam, low end, good mids, was not bleeding, and was definitely more of my preference. It was more fun, had more excursion and control over that bass too. Like, seriously, like that would definitely be on a list of IEMs I would want to purchase or get a much more detailed listen at home with. It rumbled, it popped, didn't pierce at all. The mids were great. Piano timbre was good. Not big staging, but I dig that IEM. I actually gave it a 3 stars. I didn't necessarily put it in like my top 5 of CanJam. I have no idea how long the Velour has been around, but I'm glad I asked for a little more bass because they gave it to me and I liked the sound of the Velour quite a bit. From there in that same room, there was a gentleman there from Dita, D-I-T-A, who had a Project M IEM. He's actually a YouTuber that makes IEMs too. And I tried out his prototype that he had. And then I also checked out his Project M. And that was actually the picture that I had up there for a second, was a picture of the Project M. It's pretty clear. Nothing too fancy about the IEM from a look standpoint. But I really didn't care for it, to be honest. In the only notes I wrote down that, I thought it had some good staging to it. It was detailed. But I felt like the prototype just brought in a lot more of the things that I like with low end. I didn't take a picture of the prototype because it was literally just a titanium shell. It was pretty beat up. You could tell it's not the final version. He did say it's going to be titanium, and it was a little heavy too. But I did like their prototype. I just can't give you a whole lot of details on it because it was kind of towards the end of the time of me trying to leave that area. And it was neat to check out I'd never heard of Dita before. So it was, like I said, neat to talk to him and get to know about that IEM a little bit. Vegan Vicar, Meze Lyric 2 at the 64 audio stand. Oh, okay. No, I mean, yeah, I'm sure it was, but I don't know. I didn't check it out there if it was. I was mostly just looking at the IEMs and things there. So, and Super Chonk, yes, I've definitely heard of Super Chonk before. Right ear tips in order to achieve good bass response. Yeah, I mean, that's very possible on the Project M. I just did not, yeah, for my listen that I had there, did not care for it. So, oh, and that you're saying, never mind. I see what you're saying. Super Chonk was who I was talking to. That tells you how much I watch other YouTube stuff. I heard of him. And he was super nice, by the way. Had a lot of information on his IEMs. So, all right. So from there, guys, from the 64 audio and the Bloom area, I headed to the headphones.com table and finally getting around to what I talked about at the very beginning. And now I had, not that I wasn't having fun already, but I had a lot of fun checking out some different things at headphones.com, starting with this, the French fry headphone that Pud makes. So this was so much fun to just wear and take pictures of, and it actually sounded good. I mean, that's what was crazy about it, is that, you know, people look at that and they're like, oh, they're just props. I'm like, no, you can listen to them. And it sounded pretty good for a headphone that's got French fries attached to it. And I showed them to my daughter, and of course she wants them because she loves McDonald's French fries. So, but that was a lot of fun checking that out. Then they had the iPods. I think that's what he called them. iPhone. Sorry. I had to zoom in on that. And what's funny, I guess I'll cut this off so I can see what I'm talking about. So you put them on your eyes. The speakers are right there. And they said if you hold your ears out and cup them out this way, you actually hear the sound. And you did. It was some type of a tunneling experience for the audio that was pretty fun. And it was cool. I mean, just a unique design. And then the shell headphone. I didn't listen to that one. I just threw it on because I like the look of it. And then this thing. This was ridiculous. Like the dumbbell headphone, I don't know what the official name of it is. Somebody called it two bongs on your head, or two big balls. I don't know. It's ballsy, but it was a lot of fun too. And that actually also had some good sound to it. There's my buddy Alex listening to it. That was me listening to it, and yeah, that was a lot of fun, guys. And you got to check out Pud. He's got an Instagram. Definitely go on and find him on there after this video goes to a video and not live. I can link him down below so that you guys can follow him, because such cool stuff that he has with that. So, and it was a lot of fun to spend some time there just listening to something not so serious. So, all right. So that next picture there is actually... for those that I'm sure most of you guys recognize it at this point, that is the DMS Project Omega. And I finally got to listen to it at CanJam. And I actually did talk to DMS about it. And I have it right here. So in talking to him, you know, I got to talking about how I was a YouTuber, and DMS, Doug, such a cool guy to talk to. And he said, you know, would you like to check it out with some more time? And I said, absolutely. So this was part of a review tour that he had, and I think I got it from, I want to say Super Reviews, Mark. And yeah, so I've got the Project Omega home to get an extended listen with and to get a video out. And this is the other part of the Hi-Fi for Brie thing I was going to tell you guys about, that if you watch the video tomorrow, you'll see it. Her first video in that series, other than the one tomorrow, she's going to listen to the Eris and the Project Omega and talk about her different things that she hears. And I had to laugh when I was talking about it, because very different headphones. And I didn't write down any impressions on the Omega, or I did, but I don't want to talk too much about it because I am going to do a proper video on it. But I can tell you what I heard was positive. So I will give him that and say that I think he's done a nice job with the tuning of it. It's very flimsy, and to have it on the stand like this, anybody that knows that headphone, you're probably thinking, how is it sitting like that? Well, I actually had a foam from a ZMF headphone when he packs them in there, in between the cups, so this holds them together. Otherwise, they would just kind of flop there. I know that's probably one of the biggest downfalls or complaints he probably gets on the headphone, is how floppy it is, and just like extremely just lightweight and kind of loose. But the sound is good. So, and I'll have a lot more details on the sound, other than I can say, I'll tell you this much, it's got some punchiness to it. I was happy to hear some dynamics to that headphone, and those pads are so thick that it just has a musical nature to it. And I'll share much more of that when I have the video out here at some point. So, now I think this about wrapped up my day, or my day 2, other than I did listen to the Dunu Arashi. That is this one here. This is a beautiful headphone. Dunu, for having their very first headphone, I am highly impressed on just how strikingly beautiful I think this is. Now, again, that's subjective, may not be for everyone. It's not the greatest picture either. But the grill behind there, that gold look, or copper, whichever one to call it, is such a beautiful looking headphone. And the bad thing is, my impressions of the Arashi are not great, because the source they had was all music that was in other languages I don't know. They didn't have like kind of the open title thing, and I didn't have a DAP. And this makes me now want to get a DAP in the future, because I had no way to connect my own music to the headphone. I listened to some music that I've never heard before, and I heard resolution, I heard expansive staging, I heard clarity and sparkle and all of those things. It wasn't my own music to where I can tell you more than that, other than I thought for a first headphone, I do think they've knocked it out of the park. From a total package standpoint, we're talking build, comfort, aesthetics, and sound. I think they knocked it out of the park. Now, price-wise, it's yet to be seen, or not yet to be seen. I think it's, somebody can correct me, I think it's around $2,000. So they're not going cheap for a first headphone. They're definitely swinging for the fence on that one. But, you know, I think from what I heard from the sound-wise, it was impressive. And that is about it, guys. I think the last thing I have that I didn't take notes on, checked out Amps and Sound. I talked to Justin there, and Justin is such a fun guy to talk to. I actually asked him for some 12AU7 tube recommendations for my Cayin HA-3A, and he gave me a whole list of things to write down and try out, just because I respect everything he does with Amps and Sound and makes some incredible amplifiers there. They had the Red October 2 that I unfortunately did not get to listen to and wanted to, and that's stupid me. I really should have. But yeah, you need to check out Amps and Sound 2 and Justin. But the last thing I listened to before I left was the new FiiO. I think this is the FT7 because I didn't write down any notes. So I'll let you guys see the picture of it and you can tell me. But this headphone is on the budget side. Budget for audiophiles or audio enthusiast side, around 150, 200 bucks, something like that. This one to me is just like the Fostex that I talked about earlier, in that they did a really good job with this headphone on the sound of it. Just overall tonal balance I thought was excellent for this price range. I felt like it was much better than their FT5 planar that I checked out a while back. Yeah, I think FiiO did a great job with this. And one thing that impresses me about FiiO is I feel like FiiO just keeps getting better. And you can see their progression. And as they've gotten into headphones, you can see that you can hear that progression. And I'm becoming more and more impressed with FiiO products. FT1. Thank you, Pictus. Yeah, and it's a good sounding headphone. I hope I'm able to get it in. I actually reached out to APOS to see if that's one that I can get in soon to check out because I want to. And it was an excellent listen. A good way to round out the day to listen to that. One bonus thing I have here for you guys is not something I listened to at the show, but I just bought it. And it was at the show and I just didn't get a chance to experience it. And that is the Gunner. So I'm a gamer and I have been looking for a gaming DAC amp for quite a while, and I love Schiit products, so maybe a little bit biased there, but they just developed or just put this out. It was at CanJam apparently. Like I said, I just didn't check it out there, but I saw the advertisement literally when I got home and saw the price range of it and bought it right away. I listened to this last night already for a little bit. It's no surprise. This is a great device for gamers, you know, and for people that just want to listen to music. You can do both options of it. It's got some heft to it. Reminds me of a Magna type products, and it's got dials on here that can expand your staging, bring it in. It can, you know, pull vocals, voices into you. So, you know, those features that gamers would like, it's got that. It can connect, you know, to consoles as well as PCs, and has the microphone inputs or outputs as well as the headphones. So obviously headsets are going to work with this. That's why I got it, because I needed something like this anyway for doing videos on headsets, but also because I do game, I needed something like that anyway. And I've been very impressed by it. So that's my short, quick impression of one day of it. And I will do a video on that for sure, since I own it. All right, so can you connect only mic to it while headphones to the other DAC? I don't know. I can try it. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to, because it's got the two inputs on there. So, but I can, yeah, I can try that out just to see. ZMF mic cable could, yeah, I think we were talking about that in the Discord, Tom, that, you know, the Meze boom mic, I think is going to get a lot of time for people that buy it, just because it's got the dual 3.5 to the cups, and so many headphones, that's kind of the natural connection to the cups for a lot of companies. So that Meze boom mic is going to work well with this. But you're right, like ZMF makes their boom mic that has the mini XLR connection, so you could use that as well, which means it would work with Audeze products. So yeah, I mean, I think for anybody that's a gamer, am I going to call this a game changer? I don't know yet. I haven't listened to it long enough. I have compared it to, I have the K5 Pro gaming DAC from Fosse Audio. That's just like 65 bucks. And actually for 65 bucks sounds really good, but I want to compare the mic quality to that and just a couple other features as well. But so far, I've been happy with my purchase from Schiit. We will say that. All right, guys. Well, that was pretty much everything that I checked out at CanJam, and I feel like it's a lot. I know that there's a lot of things that I missed. So if there's something that I missed that you wanted to hear about, I apologize for that. But I do want to thank you for joining me on this stream, and I felt like this went pretty smooth for the most part. So if you have any other kind of last minute questions or anything, pop them in the chat before I end this stream. But yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. If you haven't gone to a CanJam, I highly, highly recommend doing so. And if you do go to a CanJam, make sure that you come with a list, and make sure that your list is probably not as big as mine, because like I said, I didn't have time to check out every single thing on this list. Even though the Head 5 video with Jude and Brian, I think almost everything he talked about is you cannot miss. It's like, well, I missed a lot because I just didn't have that much time to check out. But a lot of things. Also, just to remember that CanJams are great. Very good way to check out products, but just remember that, you know, when you get something home, it's the best way to do it, obviously. And in a loud environment, you just can never be 100% dependent on what you're hearing there. For the most part, you can, though, I think. You know, if something just sounds terrible, unless it's paired up to something wrong, there is that too. So, okay, and I'm just going to drop another plug really quick. If you guys have never checked out any of the Hi-Fi for Bree stuff, we did an entire series on this past year of her just getting into the hobby more and checking out some IEMs. And then we decided to do a season 2 is what we're calling it. We're dropping that video tomorrow, and she's going to start getting into some headphones and probably some amps and some DACs. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I love having Bree on when I can, just to give like her opinions on things, because I like getting very opinions on products. So, Vegan Vicar Cost Porter Pro has an inline microphone. You can get one that way. I think that's the utility series, or the wireless version that I have. Yes, I mean that's got the inline in-house microphone, I guess you'd call it. But yeah, the utility series I think is what you're referring to. That one's got the inline microphone. Okay, guys. Well, I'm about an hour and 45 minutes, so thanks for hanging around. For those of you guys that have, I am going to wrap this up and probably go head to dinner since it's that time in Indiana here. And yeah, I never know how to end these things, so I'll just end it and say, hope you guys have a good rest of your Saturday. Take care, enjoy the music, and